Tian was so shocked he was rendered speechless. Shi Qingxuan then scratched his head. Aya! I had wanted to disguise as someone else at first and observe you guys in secret, but I didn't think your highness's eyes were this sharp. It can't be helped. It must be because my flair and grace are unforgettable. Tian rested his hands on his shoulders and choked out, Lord Windmaster. Shi Qingxuan stopped ha-haing, but was still scritch-scritch scratching his head, as if his hair was filled with fleas and it was itchy. Your Highness, I'm not the Windmaster anymore. Fine, Qingxuan, Shilian said. There was a pause before he asked, How did you become this way? It's a long story, Shi Qingxuan said. Anyway, it was just this and that, here and there, and then I ended up like this. Just then, the crowd inside the temple called out, What? Old Feng? You know these two? Shi Qingxuan turned around. His arm went around Shilian's shoulder, and he slapped it hard. Yeah, they're my good friends from the past. What? It's your old friend? Old Feng, why didn't you say so? Old Feng, the likes of you actually knows a little white face who you can tell with one look was raised in the honey of tender meat. I bet you're bullshitting again. The crowd was surprised and amazed, making a big deal out of things. It should have been funny, but Shilian only felt upset. It had to be known that amongst the three of them, only the Windmaster of the past was the true little white face raised in the honey of tender meat. Shi Qingxuan was furious. What's that you say? I'm not bullshitting. Please, remember back when you were still mental and would speak nonsense all day? Think we've all forgotten? Shi Qingxuan wallowed, and cried a series of unintelligible noises. I'm going to go help my friends now. I'm leaving. Anyone else coming? This time, the crowd looked at each other. A moment later, they said, All right, fine. If it's Old Feng's friend, then it's different. Let's go along with Old Feng, lest he get beaten to death by someone. He's already missing an arm and a leg. Hey, Shi Qingxuan called out. There were still those who wouldn't give up and pressed. Is there really no compensation? Even if there's no pay, a chicken leg to munch on would be fine too. Shilian gave Shi Qingxuan a brief account, and both parties now understood the situation. Shi Qingxuan gave it a thought and said, I can understand that we can't use force or temptation for this business, but giving everyone a bite to eat should be fine. Everyone hasn't had a good meal in a long time. As long as they didn't hold a greedy heart, it wouldn't be a problem. Shilian replied, It should be all right, but say it this way. He whispered a few words, and Shi Qingxuan said, I was thinking the same thing. Then he turned around and hollered, After this is done, they're going to treat everyone to a bowl of chicken leg soup later. Hey, everyone gets a bowl whether you come or not. Attention, you'd get one even if you don't go. We only ask for volunteers. Now the way he phrased it was crafty. Everyone gets a bowl. Everyone got to eat, whether they went or not, which made the ones who decided to come immensely valuable. Shi Qingxuan shouted, Anyone else coming? The more the merrier. Come. Tell everyone there's no pay. Hey, it's just giving me a hand. Saving the world. Surround the royal capital or whatever is just whatever. But we only want volunteers. We'll treat everyone to a good meal after this is done. Perhaps it was because there was someone leading the way. In the blink of an eye, the cold and indifferent temple suddenly became as hot as fire, and the beggars also split up to go inform more homeless folks they knew. Shilian, Huacheng, and Shi Qingxuan stood before the entrance of that broken-down temple. Shilian looked up and saw that where there should have been an establishment plaque was empty. He couldn't help but remember that dilapidated temple of wind and water back at the town of Fugu, and those divine statues of the Water Master, whose head was cut off, and the Wind Master, who was missing an arm and a leg. In the end, he couldn't hold it in, and he turned to Qingxuan, asking hesitatingly, "Qingxuan?" Qingxuan dropped his arm from his shoulder. "What is it?" "Oh, sorry about this, Your Highness. My hand's a little dirty. Your clothes." Sure enough, his arm had left dirty marks on the shoulder of Shilian's white robes. He looked as if he wanted to help Shilian dust it off, but then realized it would only get dirtier the more he dusted, so he withdrew his hand, rubbing his nose awkwardly. As if Shilian minded those things. He was only concerned with one thing. "Lord Qingxuan, your fate?" Qingxuan was startled. "What about my fate?" "Did black water change it after all?" Shilian asked. Then it finally dawned on Qingxuan, and he quickly said, "Oh, no. He didn't. You've misunderstood. He didn't do anything." Shilian didn't think that black water would change Qingxuan's fate in the end either. "Then your arm and leg?" he asked. Qingxuan scratched at his head again and said a little shyly, "This wasn't him either. How do I say? There's some carelessness here and some really bad luck there, but this was all my own doing." Since he wouldn't give the details, Shilian didn't press for them. Somehow, imperceptibly, Qingxuan's current state had affirmed He Xuan's prophecy-like act of anger back at the Temple of Wind and Water. Who knew what mysterious force was at play? "That day, my spiritual powers were suddenly sucked away, and I couldn't help you. I'm really sorry," Shilian said. Qingxuan waved his hand. "The whole thing had nothing to do with you anyway. If it wasn't Your Highness who told me what was going on beforehand, my head might still be in the clouds all the way to the very end." "What exactly happened afterward, that day?" Shilian asked. It turned out, after He Xuan decapitated Shiwudu, Qingxuan slumped and became lifeless. He couldn't understand anything He Xuan said to him, only vaguely recalling that He Xuan had taken him out of the Blackwater Island. Later, he was ditched in the royal capital. He didn't understand why it was the royal capital, but in the past, Qingxuan had always fussed about going to the royal capital to feast and drink, so he was indeed fairly familiar with the area. Everything was a blur, and when he finally snapped out of it, he decided to just bury his name and settle down there. Since he completely lost all of his spiritual powers, had nothing to pinpoint his identity, and spent his days in blighted squalor, naturally, the upper court wouldn't be able to find any traces of his whereabouts. In any case, it has nothing to do with him, Qingxuan said. I've never seen him since either. It was probably for the best that they never saw each other again. This affair truly was difficult to manage. A person like this, does he kill or not kill? Besides, the Water Master also savagely disgusted He Xuan at the brink of his death, and Shilian seriously sweated for Qingxuan's fate. Right then, the band of beggars returned with more people. The mob pushed and dragged, loudly babbling. "Old Feng, Old Feng, we've dragged this many people for you. What do you think?" Qingxuan gave them a big thumbs up. "Good work. Everyone gets a chicken leg." "There's so many people. Will they be able to afford to feed all of us?" Shi Qingxuan swept his hand, and for a moment Xilian almost thought he was going to toss out 100,000 merits. But he only said, "This is nothing. Never mind this many. They can afford to feed even 10 times the amount." Finally snapping out of it, if he counted roughly, there were actually now more than 200 people gathered, completely outside of Xilian's expectations. He was cheered up. "Lord Windmer, Qingxuan, this is a great help," he said. Shi Qingxuan was proud and pleased. "But of course, I can call forth hundreds no matter where I go. Maybe in the future, I can establish a gang or something. Fish up a gang leader title," he laughed. "Old Feng's gone mental again," the crowd of beggars behind them all commented. "Yeah, right, he's swanking again." "What? I'm not swanking," Shi Qingxuan exclaimed. But those few beggars just had to pull his leg, and they said to Xilian, "My friend, you don't know this, right? When old Feng first came, he was a mess, nagging insanely, chasing behind people all day, every day, to boast that he's a god." Shi Qingxuan appeared slightly ill at ease and immediately griped, "I've no time to listen to you all talk nonsense. Leave your mouths for munching chicken legs." Xilian listened to them quietly, his smile fading a bit. His heart felt like it was crumpled into a ball, but at the same time was laid out open and easy like rice paper. Lord Windmaster had changed, but at the same time he hadn't. Thank goodness. Shi Qingxuan spoke up. "Your Highness, what do we do now? I've got the people for you. Now they're in your hands." Although the number of people wasn't enough, it'd only be temporary. They'd think about it more once the array was set up. Xilian replied, "Very good. Now we need to find an empty area that can hold this many people." Earlier, during their conversation, Hua Cheng had never interrupted, and Xilian couldn't tell what he was thinking. Only now did he speak up. "That's easy to take care of. Gege, just come with me." Xilian nodded, and Shi Qingxuan hobbled over as he hailed buoyantly, "Everyone come follow. Don't lose your way, hey?" Xilian had wanted to assist him at first, but when he saw no one went to help support him, and he didn't walk any slower than anyone else, he understood. A large group of beggars thus pushed out of the slum in a bustle, pouring into the streets, but they didn't get very far before there was an angry shout. "Stop right there! What's this? There's so many of you. Are you trying to start something in the middle of the night?" The beggars were all greatly alarmed. "Oh no, it's the night patrol." However, Xilian didn't bother to look back, because Hua Cheng didn't look back. "Don't mind them." Then that soldier slumped down. The beggars were amazed, and they started chattering. Shi Qingxuan then cried, "Quiet! Don't attract more soldiers over." Thus the group toned down to hushed whispers. Hua Cheng paused in his step and said, "Gege, this street will do." "This one?" Xilian asked. "Certainly by location, it's the most suitable. But wouldn't it be too conspicuous?" This large street was very wide and spacious, flat and paved going forward. It was the main avenue of the royal capital, so of course it was conspicuous. Everyone chimed in. "Yeah, what if we get discovered and get chased out?" However, Hua Cheng said, "That's fine. Even if they discover us, they can't chase us out." Xilian nodded. "Everyone, I must make this absolutely clear to you now. What we will be facing soon is something very vicious, and there could be danger. However, if it breaks through, then the entire royal capital will be endangered. So I need everyone to be sure that you're doing this voluntarily, without any second thoughts. Is there anyone who is scared and wishes to back out?" There was no one. Xilian continued. Very good. Then will everyone now hold each other's hands and form a large circle? Someone was puzzled. What array spell is this? How come it sounds like babies holding hands? Shi Qingxuan exclaimed, So much nonsense. Just follow the instructions. Ha! Old Feng, you've got it wrong there. No one talks more nonsense than you know. Chatter and bustle, the crowd followed the direction and the 200-some people held hands, forming a very, very large human circle on the spacious and wide main avenue of the royal capital. Shi Qingxuan asked, Those creatures won't be able to charge into the royal capital as long as we hold hands like this? No, Xilian said. They'll be charging down sooner or later. Shi Qingxuan was confused. Then what's the use of this array of yours? It's a trap, Xilian explained. Once this array is set up, when those creatures break through the protection shield of the royal capital and come charging down, they won't go rogue everywhere. They will instead be lured to the circle and fall into the trap.